Hey, a pleasant good day, everyone. Welcome into the Sports Fanatic News NHL Hockey Frenzy, courtesy of Sports Fanatic News and SteelFlyers.com. Check out the SteelFlyers.com stuff as well. But we're going to recap the stars of the weekend thus far. If you look at starting on Friday's games, as it takes a while to load up here we go. You got the LA Kings that faced the Minnesota Wild on Friday. That game, they really did not show up. They lost 3-1. Kaprizov killed them in both games. He scored a nasty wraparound goal where he fell behind the net and was still able to wrap it around and in. Bukestad was able to capitalize against the Kings, which is not too surprising because until they have some of the cats come up from the minors, they don't have the best size. The Kings have some skill and are a surprise team this year this far, except for against the Wild, obviously, which we'll get to. But Bukestad's a big guy, so he was able to take advantage. And Eriksson Ek, they just could not stop him all weekend as he ended up dominating yesterday's game, too, where they just ended up getting a late, basically garbage time goal by Jeff Carter at that point when that ended up going in off of his foot or skate or stick. It literally looked like he kicked his stick into it almost when he scored that goal. So that goal pretty much meant nothing. The Bruins and Rangers game was the game I pretty much barely watched because the Rangers started pulling heavily ahead. The Bruins really did not show up that game. The Rangers did have some fans. I think that was the big addition in that game. Obviously, you have the extra man, and they had the fans finally in the stadium as teams are starting to open it up. It seems like the Flyers, my local team, my favorite team, ended up having them by the 7th. It seems like the rumors are right now. So the Rangers had some fans. They were really motivated. They did really good, and they're playing pretty well thus far without Panarin, who obviously we wish well. You have the Avalanche and Coyotes. That was a really good game. That was just a typical Coyotes game that they're able to come back later in the game, even though they're outshot by more than 10 shots. That just seems like Arizona. You got Radnan, who had a nice bounce him in front. Burakovsky sniped one. Kadri was able to score. Kessel still getting it done goals-wise, has his 8th goal with Dvorak, who's breaking out this season, getting his 7th assist. And then Kajula was able to park himself in a good spot and then get a goal as well. But that was in 1907 in the third. So just like the typical Arizona Coyotes, they've had a late push, but they just can't play a full, complete game all the time, especially against someone as strong and mighty as the Colorado Avalanche. And that's just unfortunate for them because Arizona is a team where I know we talked about this on Pirlo's show. I think John's talked about it on his show. They can't really afford to go into a full rebuild because the Coyotes, you just don't have the fanship, especially where that stadium is located all the way over here, pretty much from the city. That's all the way over here. You just can't afford to go into that full mighty rebuild. And that's just unfortunate for the Coyotes. That's what will be best for their team, most likely, other than trading. You don't want to trade the Dvoraks of the world. Keller, I think, is going to pan out. I mean, look at how long it took Dvorak to hit, and he's hitting this year. People projected Keller. I think his ceiling would have been higher than what people projected Christian Dvorak's at. So if he hits at the age of 24, that would be big and stronger than even what Dvorak's hit as. So I think that's why you should definitely not move on from Keller. But since the Kings did play yesterday too, we'll stick with that one for right now. They were able to get it into overtime. The Wild still heavily outplayed them, though. The Wild had 42 shots to only 28 for the LA Kings. So the Kings were able to get into overtime, but just kind of luckily almost. You had Eriksson Ek dominated them again. Nico Sturm was able to get a nice rebound goal. Kaprizov scored on the Kings again. Doughty was able to get one. Wagner got one on a breakaway. Kempe got one. And then Dumba had a nice goal in overtime that he was able to have a very nice setup in front. Well, not a setup, but puck that basically went to him, and he was able to put it in front of the net. So that was an unfortunate bounce for the Kings, but the Kings did not deserve to win that game. I mean, when you get outshot 28-42, you're not really dominating in any facets of the game you want to dominate in. You won in the face-off dodge, so that's good at least. You won on the power play in terms of 2 for 4, but in 5-on-5 play, you sure as hell did not win, and that's where you really have to be able to win in, and they were not able to do that. The Kings lost the 5-on-5 battle in that game, and that's why they ended up eventually losing in overtime. As for my Philadelphia Flyers, my hometown Philadelphia Flyers, Moose played a great game, going 23 for 23, getting his 42nd career shutout. You were able to have some goals scored by Sean Couturier that got a fortuitous bounce off the defender, but after a great play by Travis Sanheim, the defender, to be able to stick check it off of the defender and then be able to crash and get an assist to Cooch for that goal. Sanheim was always a guy, when you watched him coming up the ranks in the minors, actually did pinch in and did kind of supply more offensive support, but then they told him to hone it back a bit, and then in the NHL, he's kind of been an all-around guy. So now that they're letting him kind of just take off a bit, it seemed like he knew with Justin Braun back, who's obviously just a defensive defenseman, he was able to kind of take off a bit more, and maybe that is a line. Braun played his best game, as the great Jamie Baskow said. Check him out if you haven't already. He does some great stuff for Flyers Nitty Gritty as well. Said on Twitter, Braun played his best game by far since last year yesterday. All he has to do is just not pass it sometimes into guys, but other than that, he played his best game by far. And then you had Ghost, who was able to step in on the rush again and receive a nice pass. And then he said he wanted to go bar down, but it went through the legs. The goal was a goal. So then you had Lawton on a breakaway do the fake shot and end up scoring. That was a very nice play by Scott Lawton. Obviously, the Flyers were able to shut them out yesterday for the Buffalo Sabres, and we'll get back to that game since that's one of the games we're going to preview for today in a little bit. But that was a great game. I would say the best game of yesterday was probably, especially if you like goal scoring, the Blues and the Sharks. I mean, that game was 7-6, and the team that was down in the shot total ended up winning. Timo Meier had a good game. Kane had a good game. Burns did as well, which is huge to see for the Sharks. He was able to get an assist in that game. But the Blues were able to prevail, even though Meier had 2 goals. Braden Shen, the former Flyer, was able to come up clutch with a goal. Evander Kane had 2 goals, but the Blues on Stanford, McCurchin, I think is how you say that kid's name, were able to prevail with guys you would not expect other than O'Reilly's of the world to really score for the Blues. You had Scandella twice. So the Blues were able to dip deep into their depth and be able to somehow get 7 goals to squeak out the Sharks, who, in my opinion, played a better game in the bits and pieces of that game I saw and some of the highlights from NHL Network. In my opinion, from looking at that and following Twitter, it seemed like they played the better game, but the Blues somehow had the depths of their depth be able to win that game for them. Now, the Capitals, that was expected. The Capitals should have won that game. They took advantage. Hathaway had a goal. They gave one to Sprong. It didn't seem like he deflected it, but I guess he did on that Dylan shot. Lars Eller had a nice goal. Other than Hischier, the normal culprits that step up for the Devils and Zaka, they didn't really have a good game at all. The shot total was the same, but when you just looked at that game eyesight-wise, the Capitals well outplayed them, and that's basically what the Flames did to the Senators in a 6-3 format as well. Valimaki, though, it's nice to see him get his first goal because obviously they want him to step up tenfold, and that's going to be a big defenseman, a young defenseman they're going to need if the Flames want to be able to bounce back this year. Batherson kept his goal streak going. That's really the only positive for the Senators in that game. And Mangiapane has kept his breakout season going now with 8 goals for the Calgary Flames. When it comes to the Blue Jackets, and Predators game, that was just a 2-1 finish. Obviously, you have Atkinson, but Ekholm was the maker in this game. He's the guy. If Ekholm did not come back in this game, good luck to the Predators. I mean, he had both of their goals, both on fortuitous bounces for him, but he still had both of their goals. That's a guy that I know the Flyers and other teams are targeting in trade rumors. You're probably going to have to give up a first for him because he also has next year left for only a $3.2-something million cap hit, which is absolutely ridiculous, and a great team-friendly contract to only have that level of a cap hit. So Ekholm, you're going to have to give up a lot for. Jomerson, you probably have to give up a little bit less because he just has this year and a bigger cap hit and also isn't as consistent as Ekholm. He's a great defenseman, Jomerson, but he's obviously not as consistent as Ekholm, who's just kind of the epitome of consistency when he's in, and he showed that yesterday coming back and being the main reason the Nashville Predators won that hockey game. Now, Penguins Islanders. The main reason Pittsburgh won that game was the Stars, the killers in Pittsburgh. You got Crosby, you got Letang, and then you got the only killer that didn't chip in but has kind of become part of the killer crew on Crosby's line or Malkin's line. Usually McCann chipped in with a goal there, but then Letang again. So it's really the Crosby-Letang duo, all the guys that normally kill them, and then we don't even have to go into the Lightning and Stars game. The Lightning just brought down the house on the Dallas Stars, and they had no chance in that game. The Panthers and Hurricanes game, and then the Leafs game is the same way, 4-0. They just destroyed the Oilers, and it didn't seem like the Oilers had much of a chance in that game. So there's nothing to really recap about that game. The Panthers and Hurricanes was 4-3. Trocheck has continued to have a nice season. Jake Bean wired his first goal. That was nice to see. He's going to be a very good, at least offensive defenseman, and probably pretty damn good on his own end, just not always as consistent there as on the other end. Vetrano continued his good season for Florida, but other than that, you had Fogle cap off a goal, and you had Dougie Hamilton and Trocheck and Nakis come up big in the shootout to be able to put the Hurricanes over the top there. The most surprising game of yesterday, the Avalanche beating the Coyotes. They smacked them again, so that wasn't really a game that was much to recap. That was just go for the Avalanche from the beginning, and they showed no letback. I mean, McDonald scored a goal, for God's sakes. When Jacob McDonald scores a goal, that's when you know everything's going right for the Avalanche. So, and Yost was able to get his first goal too. He's been struggling. So yeah, everything went right for the Avalanche in that game. So there's not much to talk about. But the biggest surprising game was the fact that the Blackhawks showed the Red Wings. They made the Red Wings look like the old school Red Wings from about 10 years ago. They were able to get 5 goals, look pretty solid out there. Bobby Ryan, one of my favorite players, got a goal. But, I mean, you shouldn't let Christian Juice, who was really able to step up into the play with no contest, you shouldn't let players like him be able to look basically like one of the better offensive defensemen like he did in a couple of plays. Svechnikov, who's been struggling so far this year, had a big goal in that game. Franz Nielsen got his first goal. I mean, you allowed a lot of the guys that haven't been doing it for Detroit, and only Bobby Ryan was one of the guys that really have been doing it for them this year that actually showed up in that game. So I think that was a very off game by Chicago, and definitely look for them to bounce back because they've been playing pretty damn well this year, and that was just not very, very, very common for them this year at all. They're one of the biggest surprise teams of the season. Nobody expected the Blackhawks to be where they're at right now, but because of Lankinen and Subban actually having a hell of a season this year, they are where they're at, and they deserve to be where they're at. Also, Jeremy Colleton's a hell of a coach, and then the Bowmans just continue to impress people they bring over like Kurashev and others, Pius Suter and others. So obviously they have Boquist, another great player they brought in the draft, obviously. So that's just great to see them continue to have some success, I guess, in some capacity, because that's good for the overall league, and I'm obviously a fan of the overall league as well. Another game that obviously should have, if you looked at the shot totals, went the other way. I have no idea, honestly, how the Jets were able to squeak out with a win in this one. The Canadians outshot them by 20, yet the Jets won 2-1. Suzuki had a nice goal in this game. Ehlers, who's having a hell of a season, had his 10th goal. But then in OT, Paul Stastny, of all people, was able to win the game for the Jets. I don't know like how this game, I mean, I do know how you have to have the Canadians capitalize on some of these chances. That's really how. I mean, when you have all these chances, you have to be able to finish on some of them. I understand that there was a great performance by Connor Hellebuyck, who's one of the best goalies of our generation, honestly, and obviously currently in the league. But when you have 41 damn shots, you got to be able to put another one in and capitalize, and they were just not able to do that. They allowed the game to get into overtime, and that's when anything can happen. It's like a team that's just very fortuitous and has the experience that you allow to get into the playoffs. Anything can happen at that point. Chicago's going to be that team if they do get in this year. They have experience, and they have youngsters that are playing with a lot of fire in their belly. They would be that team if they get in this year. That's a prime example of that. But it's simple. You can't let teams like the Jets, who especially have the skill of the Jets, it doesn't matter how they've been doing recently or any of that chutzpah. It just matters that they have the skill of the Jets. You can't let them stay in a game like that. Now they're well ahead of you in the standings because they are playing better than you lately. As Montreal has fallen off all of a sudden, that's how Julian got fired. So, and then Ducharme came in now. So it's going to be interesting to see what they're able to do up there because that was just a pretty disgraceful way to lose for Montreal. You got to be able to capitalize it. I know it's Connor Hellebuyck, but your goalie also played a hell of a game. So how are you going to just hang him out to dry like that when Jake Allen's playing tremendous this year and at times has been better than Price, which has also been an issue for Montreal. But you have to have guys step up and you have to be able to score when you have that many shots on net. That was not a good look, that loss for them. But in a score update, Charlie Coyle scored for Boston as that game was already kicked off against the New York Rangers. They have 5-1 as Coyle scored at 6:41 into the first. But now we're getting into previewing the other games for today as well. We have obviously the Philadelphia Flyers, my hometown Philadelphia Flyers, playing the Buffalo Sabres again. Hey, how's it going, Go Caps? The Bruins scored, by the way, to let you know, Go Caps. Charlie Coyle scored. And also, nice win for you guys yesterday. But the Flyers are playing the Sabres. Also, the Rangers are on the power play right now, so people know. And that's going to be an interesting, obviously, game for us today. After going 3-0, you would want to complete this sweep in Buffalo, to be able to get it. Cooch has been playing great. Obviously, you have to watch the Reinhardts, Dahleens, and when you're the Philadelphia Flyers, you always have to keep a lookout for Jeff Skinner, just due to the fact that he's a Flyers killer, even though he sucks since going to the Sabres. But he's still a Flyers killer, so you definitely have to keep a lookout for him. Doing good, Go Caps. Thanks for asking. Do I think Backstrom will get his 700th assist today? You guys are 3 o'clock too. That's right. You're one of the 3 o'clock games along with us. Against the Devils, he's definitely going to have obviously the open ice and the ability against some of their young defensemen to get his 700th assist. So I would say, yeah, there's definitely a high possibility because as I think the Flyers, like I was going to say for the Flyers, I'll get into your game in a second, Go Cap. The Flyers, I think, are going to be able to complete a sweep because it seems like Hart will probably obviously be put in for this game, but I think he'll have a good game and be able to really get it done. And the Flyers will be able to capitalize and have a good game again. I mean, that JVR, Cooch, and Fairby line has been remarkable. Putting Lawton with Lindbrom and Voracek has been remarkable. Provy looks very good with Ghost. Ghost seems like he's back, baby. Way to go, Shane Gostisbehere. Love the dude. Love the fact that he's back. Myers got rested to clear his head. Hopefully he bounces back and has a tremendous game. He's still going to be a hell of a defenseman. Hag might end up being back with Braun again, but it seemed like Sanheim and Braun actually worked out well, so maybe they'll end up putting Myers with Hag to see what happens there. But I expect good things from this game. It seems like Gus might end up being scratched. COVID protocol, TK still on it. And Frost is injured, where obviously for the Sabres, you just got to watch Olofsson, Reinhart, Hall, even though he's struggling, youngster Cousins, Stahl, and that's pretty much it since Eichel's out. So those are the guys you really have to watch. In baseball, yes, Go Caps. My favorite team would be the Phillies. Yes, that is correct. Where one of my others is the Boston Red Sox from business trips that my dad's been on and got gear and stuff. But anyway, this is the hockey end, so we're going to your game for you now, Go Caps. As for the Washington Capitals and New Jersey Devils, obviously you got to watch Pavel Zacha, who's on a hot streak. He now has 6 goals and 7 assists for 13 points. So you want to keep a lookout for him. Ty Smith's obviously been good, a +7 this year, 11 points. So obviously he's been good. And yeah, I figured you'd probably like the Nats, Go Caps, since obviously you're a Capitals fan, so Nationals would make sense. Obviously players to watch in this game, you're always going to look out for Carlson. Chara's been impressive since going to the Capitals, honestly. he's filled in really well. He's just respected his role, done great with the young guys, and has just played honestly tremendously himself. And I'm sure Go Caps, you've been happy with what Zdeno Chara has been able to do this far. I would imagine he's been a pretty damn good player since going over there. And then Sheary is a guy that obviously gets the most out of being up with guys in the lineup. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, we're not going to talk about baseball in this one, Go Cavs. This is the hockey frenzy. The baseball frenzy was the other day, and I'll end up doing another one this week for my channel, but this one's all hockey. Um, so you have, like I said, Connor Sheary was playing tremendously when he's up in lines with people. He's usually doesn't do much unless if you give him guys that are able to facilitate the puck to him, and then he's a scrappy little guy. That's good for your team if he's just lower in the lineup, but isn't going to put up much offensively. Sprong stepping up yesterday and actually looking pretty solid was obviously a nice sight to see. So you got guys stepping up lower in your lines. Vron is a guy that's just a great straight line skater, as you saw with the one goal. So if you can get him going, his legs just start churning. So that's very good to see for him. It seems like today, are you guys going to put Craig Anderson in that today, Go Caps, according to this projected lineup thing? Because it has Craig Anderson and Vanacek listed, where it has Aaron Dell, it seems like, might be starting for New Jersey because it has Blackwood listed as a scratch with Yanni Kukkonen in projected lineups, and then it has Wedgwood. So it seems like Dell or Wedgwood's going to start, probably Aaron Dell. And then for you guys, it might end up being Craig Anderson since he's listed with Vanacek, where Anderson is expected. Okay, then that will be interesting with the score sheet because I actually like Aaron Dell and always thought he's a goalie. I follow a lot of different goalies on social media that always has the great work ethic, works really hard at it, and the same goes with Craig Anderson. Obviously, Anderson's aging now, but put together a pretty damn good career. And then Aaron Dell's been a more better, consistent minor leaguer than NHL, but has had some good times with the San Jose Sharks. But this game obviously has a better chance of being a little bit more high scoring now. But I still think the Capitals are going to be able to prevail because you guys still have Chara, like I said, who's playing well. Jensen, all of a sudden, is playing really, really solid. Nick Jensen. I know they were talking about him on the one telecast I was watching on NHL, and it seems like he's playing good. Orlov's obviously a pretty consistent defenseman. Dylan has had good games and has been pretty damn good for the Caps. Carlson, etc. So, yeah, you got a good group there. I think if the Caps are going to add, it might be depth forward. I don't know if you would agree with that, Go Caps, but probably more depth at forward, where the defense has actually been pretty surprising. Some other guys have stepped up. You still have Siegenthaler as well. Vanacek's been pretty damn good. Obviously, you still got Sam Sonoff when he's able to really get going and churning again. And Craig Anderson is a nice veteran to have a good career, long, a solid NHL goaltender that brings great experience to the goaltending room as well. But I would say the Capitals will get that win. I'll go 5-3 just because of the fact that goaltenders that are at this point do allow sometimes more goals, have some weaknesses at this point of his career for Anderson, and the fact that Dell's still trying to battle back and really get his NHL career back after going away for a little bit. For the Flyers, I would expect probably a lower score again. I would say the score is going to be, instead of 3-0, the Flyers will be able to win 4-1 in this game because I still think that the Sabres are probably going to score one goal, at least in this series on the weekend. I doubt we're going to sweep them without them getting a goal. I mean, they do have some talent, especially on the power play, that the Flyers were able to stop them on yesterday, which was huge. But I don't see that continuing to happen through and through. The Bruins right now is at 7:40 in the first, according to my phone. Is still 1-0. The shots are even now. They're 5-5 on a goal that was a wrist shot from Charlie Coyle, 6:41 into the first. Now we'll preview the Blue Jackets and Predators. Obviously, this is the game that the Nashville Predators were able to ink out due to a great performance by Ekholm in his first game back, being able to get both goals from very fortunate bounces, but still he had a great laser on the first one, then got a very fortunate bounce in the other one. Samsonov won Bob Road Truck because we were playing when I was watching a minor league game, a couple announcers brought it up where he's been brought back up when I was watching the Hershey game. Actually, it was, I misspoke. Off, and I think he's just maybe on the taxi squad because they brought him back up. That's why yesterday he wasn't starting for the Hershey Bears. So I don't know where he is in the process. Maybe they want to get him through some practices. Go Caps! I didn't read into it or anything. I was just listening while watching the AHL game on AHL TV, and they said the reason he's not in today and they had a different goaltender in was simply because he's back up and on the taxi squad. And I think that's the case, but I don't think they want to rush him into a game because he didn't look fully ready yet in the AHL. Like in his first game, the Phantoms really got to him. So it seems like they're just kind of not trying to push it along too much because he had a really, really bad bout with COVID. So I think they just don't want to force it. They would rather let it come as it comes and have him go when he's ready and not force anything, especially like when I brought up earlier, you have the experience of Anderson and you have a Vanacek stepping up. Okay, got you. So he is in the taxi squad. So that's so he can probably practice with you guys. And then if they still feel he needs more time, I would presume maybe they would give him a little bit more rehab in Hershey and then allow him to play, or they'll just throw him back in and allow him to play. We'll have to see what happens there. But that's why Hershey ended up having Zach Fucale in yesterday. That's why they had Fucale and Zachary Fucale. That's who it was over Samsonov since he went back up to the taxi squad. But anyway, we'll go back to the NHL now. I think the Predators, honestly, coming into this game at 9-11 and the 8-9-5 Blue Jackets are going to be able to pull this out again at home. I mean, and Blue Jackets just did not impress me in that game. Like, they just did not show a lot of fight. They had 30 shots, sure, but like the Blue Jackets just have not been what I've expected them to be. They usually show more fight with Tortorella and his staff, and this year they played a lot of games that are fairly flat. And so have the Predators, but the Predators played with a little bit more fire in yesterday's game. I feel that will continue today. Forsberg still having a heck of a season with 9-9 for 18 points. So I think he's going to continue to dominate everybody. You just got to stop Atkinson, who's on a hot streak, and you'll be pretty good there, as well as Bjorkstrand, who has one of the most underrated shots in the league. And obviously the fact that Line A's there now, so you got to stop those guys. Roslovich back home. But I just haven't liked, since those guys first got there, what I've seen from the Jackets, especially in this game against Nashville. And that's who they're playing against again. They came out pretty flat. Nashville came out flat as well, just not as flat as the Blue Jackets. That's why I think this will be low scoring again. I'm going to go probably 2-1 again, honestly, Predators, just because I don't see these teams scoring a lot of goals. But I just see Nashville coming out with a little bit more spunk since it's at home than the way that the Blue Jackets have been, which has been very flat through and through. And then we already did the Capitals and Devils for Go Caps, so we already went over that one. When it comes to Pittsburgh and the Islanders, obviously the last game ended up going in OT to the Pittsburgh Penguins on a goal from Christopher Letang, the duo teaming up, Crosby and Letang having the great fortunate games for the Penguins for them to be able to get the win. And yeah, you guys definitely need to re-sign Ovi and Vrana and bring back Kuzi. Yeah, I agree with that. Those are focal points of your team. And Ovi's at least going to stick around until he breaks the record, I believe. I don't think he's going to go anywhere, at least until that. Vrana, like I said, is a great inline skater. He can just really get the puck and go, so that's beneficial to see. But we're getting towards the end here, as we, like Pirlo would say, from Pirlo Wisdom Industries. Check out Flyers Nitty Gritty, Flyers Fan Mania, which is Chris's page. He did a great job covering the Phantoms yesterday for our AHL coverage. And also, please check out Pub Sports Radio and Overtime Heroics, all the great stuff that I write for and do. And please subscribe to this channel if you have not already. But we have the Penguins and Islanders. Usually the Islanders don't take well, obviously, to having a tough loss like they did yesterday, fighting hard as the Isles always do, and then losing in OT. I think they're going to bounce back in this game, and be able to have a really good game. Pub Sports Radio is the one. Overtime Heroics is the other. Flyers Fan Mania 93 is Chris Mayer's YouTube, and then Flyers Nitty Gritty is, of course, for Flyers stuff. So I don't know if that one will interest you as much. Go Caps, and then Pirlo Wisdom, obviously, you know who Pirlo is. But I think the Islanders will bounce back, get this win. I think it'll be a 4-3 hockey game, honestly, going towards the New York Islanders end with this one. I also think the Chicago Blackhawks, this game going to be on NBCSN, 11-7-4 Blackhawks against the 7-13-3 Red Wings. I believe the Blackhawks are going to be able to bounce back, too. That was a very disappointing game for them. They've been one of the biggest surprises of the season, and then they lay a goose egg and play terrible and lose 5-3 to the Red Wings of all teams. So I don't think they're going to let that fly. I don't think Colleton's going to let that fly. I don't think the veterans like Keith and Kane are going to let that fly on that team. And I also think either Lankinen or Subban, I believe it'll be Lankinen today since Subban went yesterday, are going to step up and have a very good, consistent game and actually play very well today. And they'll have the bounce back game. I just cannot see this Blackhawks team with how they played this year. They also haven't had back-to-back really poor performances other than one other time this year. So I think they're going to bounce back. I think they're going to have a great game. I see this being a lower scoring game. I don't see it getting to an 8-goal total. So I'm going to go with a 3-1 score prediction in the Chicago Blackhawks' favor for the 7 o'clock game on NBCSN. The one is, I think that's how you spell it for Chris's channel. That's Chris Mayer's channel. Pub Sports Radio, where they do all sports on Pub Sports Radio, a bunch of different podcasts and different shows they have on there, is the one. And then I don't know if you would want this one, Go Cavs, since it's Flyers, but that's the one as well. And then Steel Flyers is just the steelflyers.com. If you put that into your browser, it'll pop up and allow you to go right there. But we're coming to an end here as I did my NHL Frenzy previewing today's game and covering the weekend's games and performances. Like I said, I think the big keys to today, I think Nashville is going to be able to be just a tad bit stronger than the Blue Jackets yet again. I think your Capitals, Go Caps, are going to be able to complete the sweep. Same with my Flyers. I think they're going to be able to complete the sweep. I think Pittsburgh's going to end up losing today because I think the Islanders are a team that usually shows good spunk and bounce back, and they're going to show that against them after an OT loss on that goal by Letang. And I think the Blackhawks are going to show great spunk and bounce back and be able to beat the Detroit Red Wings today after losing and having a very bad performance otherwise. Other than that, we saw the Avalanche show dominance again over the league this far this weekend. We saw the Maple Leafs continue to show their dominance, that they're the best team, beating the Oilers 4-0. And the Stars still showed how to be able to confuse everybody, have their great highs and low lows, losing 5-0 to the Lightning. And, of course, the Senators went back after playing a couple solid games in a row to being the Senators and losing 6-3 to the Flames. So that would about recap the weekend. The Kings also have disappointed me, being a team that I cover for the One Overtime Heroics site, and they have not showed up very well. They got the one game to OT, but have not showed up very well against the Wild. Eriksson and Kaprizov have been destroying them. But I think the Blackhawks will win today over the Wings, but we'll end up seeing who's right tomorrow or whenever I end up hopping back on Go Catch. But I actually think the Blackhawks are going to get that game over the Red Wings, and not the Red Wings tonight on NBCSN, but we'll end up seeing who's right. I thank you all for joining today. This has been the Sports Fanatic News via steelflyers.com. Please check out steelflyers.com. Check out Pirlo Wisdom's page. Check out Off the Wall Hockey. Check out Peyton on the Radio, Flyers Nitty Gritty, Pub Sports Radio, and Overtime Heroic. And everybody have a great, safe, pleasant day. Enjoy all the great hockey action and the current ongoing game. that is now 2-0 Boston Bruins as Trent Frederick, the rookie, gets a goal at 18-14 into the first on a tip-in in front of the net. So good for him being able to get his second goal. Now 2-0 Bruins, 7-5 the shots to the Bruins as an update at the end of this podcast. So everyone have a great, safe, pleasant day. This has been the NHL Hockey Frenzy from Sports Fanatic News. Like, comment, and subscribe, and steelflyers.com. Peace out, everybody.